Hello everyone, so my name is Lorena Hernandez and I'm going to be talking to you about polyethylene glycol today, which is usually called PEG. But before I start that, I wanted to talk to you about chemical engineering. So what is chemical engineering? So in general, chemical engineering is a very wide field that incorporates many different disciplines. But the main thing that what we want to think about is we're transforming our raw materials into products that we can use every day, and that includes consumer products, energy, literally anything that you see has been manufactured through chemical engineering processes. So traditionally in chemical engineering, once you graduate with an undergrad in chemical engineering, what you usually focus on is the petroleum industry, the chemical industry, and the food industry. In the petroleum industry, what we usually do is we're usually running the plant or also making research to make the plant more efficient. We're also in the chemical industry, it's very similar because petroleum chemical derives from petroleum, so it's very similar. And then in the food industry, what we're doing is we're looking at research and development, we're looking into new products that we can potentially use and make for the nation to eat, and we're also looking at running plants as well, and kind of troubleshooting plants so that they're working properly. However, that's something that's been known for the past. In general, those are the biggest fields in chemical engineering, but nowadays, chemical engineering is becoming even more broad than it has ever been. Uh, Currently, chemical engineering, we've been looking at biotechnology and biomedicine. We're looking into electronics and semiconductors, which is very different than any other time in history for chemical engineering. And the reason why that is because chemical engineering is, as I mentioned before, it's very broad and it's very applicable in literally any process that you can think of. We're looking now into, even in the energy industry, where we're used to looking at petroleum and chemicals for energy. We're also looking at energy alternatives. We're looking into hydrogen and how we can use alternative fuels to run cars. So it's a really exciting field right now to be a chemical engineer. We're also looking into environmental protection and process safety because it's really important that we manage our waste properly. We're looking into process and control engineering. And we're also looking at, things from a smaller level, like the biomolecular level, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. And just to kind of keep you interested in this presentation, I actually put in a fun fact in there, and it's a did you know? So Andy Grove earned a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD in chemical engineering before heading off to found Intel. So it's amazing to think that you would usually not think that someone who's working at Intel, who made Intel, would be a chemical engineer, because chemical engineers do not usually go off to work on computers. Sometimes they do, but that's not one of the traditional roles that we talked about. Specifically, what I wanted to talk to you about, though, is the biomolecular engineering field. So right now, currently, biomolecular engineering in a lot of universities is combined with chemical engineering. So the degree is called chemical engineering, chemical and biomolecular engineering. But at UF, it's seen more as a subset of chemical engineering. So I wanted to talk to you about that and one of the applications that's really exciting right now and that you should really know about. So in general, biomolecular engineering applies the principles that we learned from chemical engineering and allows them to be applied to molecular processes on a smaller level. So what we're focusing on is mostly drug delivery. We're focusing on cell biology and applying the knowledge that we know from chemical engineering into this. So what I wanted to talk to you about specifically today is PEGylation. So PEGylation, it's an interesting word, and I don't blame you if you've never heard of it. PEGylation is basically the attachment of covalent attachment of a polyethylene glycol polymer chain onto another molecule. And the reason why we attach these molecules to these other molecules is because we want to kind of mask certain drugs into our system. So when we attach this molecule, it kind of makes the other molecule dormant, and it also makes it heavier. So when it makes the entire molecule heavier, it slows it down into your system. And this is especially important when it comes to drug delivery, because when you attach something to these specific drugs, they're going to last longer in your system, and you're going to be able to keep them in your system longer without having them flushed. So in a way, it's making your drug last longer, so it's cheaper, it's inexpensive, and it's less invasive. But what exactly is PEG? So PEG is polyethylene glycol, and it's a molecule made from ethylene oxide and water. It's one of the simplest molecules. It's a non-ionic surfactant. It's very flexible, it has very low toxicity, and that's why it's so important in biomolecular engineering, specifically in drug delivery, because it is not harmful to the body at all. So it's very useful when it comes to these applications. And some of these applications are, for example, in the medical industry, we're already using it even over-the-counter drugs such as Miralax. All the laxatives, one of the main ingredients is polyethylene glycol. We're also looking at lubricating eye drops, so you know that it's safe for your eye. In the chemical industry, we're using it to create very high osmotic pressures between systems. In the biological industry, we're using it as a precipitate to concentrate DNA. And in the commercial industry, we're using it, for example, in toothpaste, we use it as sort of a filler. So you know it's safe because you're using it on your body all the time. We're using it on skin creams, and it's being used as an ink solvent as well in printers. So it's very applicable to everything. You could use it for just about any process. And so it's very safe, it's cheap and expensive, so there's really no reason why we shouldn't have been using this before, but it's just an amazing technology that's really new. So the process of polyethylene glycol, for example, this is an example of adding it to an oligonucleotide, but we can actually add it to proteins, we can add it to just about any sort of molecule. The way that we do this is by, as you see here in this picture, we go through the oligonucleosynthesis, so we make our first molecule, and then we cleave it, which means that we're kind of cutting our molecule, and right now it has, for example, a side molecule that's helping it, and when we do that, we take off a big molecule that it has and then attach another molecule so that the PEGylated part can be attached to the oligonucleotide. So I'm going to go through that real quick again. So the oligonucleotide is attached to a side molecule to make it stable, and it's sort of a large molecule so that it can be kicked off when we add the PEGylate, the polyethylene glycol. So in the end, you'll have a polyethylene glycol molecule attached to this new oligonucleotide. So the history of PEGylation, so it's relatively new. In 1972, a professor actually tried to find a way to make drug last longer in your body. In 1979, he actually patented that idea because he found a way to figure out using polyethylene glycol, and he patented it and made his first new company in 1981 called Enzyme. In 2002, we've still been making research, but we mostly focus on proteins. And then now in 2005, we're starting to focus on drug delivery, and this has probably been the biggest outbreak in terms of using PEGylation in pharmaceutical industry and biomolecular industry. So it's a very, very, very popular topic right now. And I kind of just want to leave you off with, as my last slide, I want to talk to you about chemical engineering. So chemical engineering is such a broad industry. Chemical engineers in general are going into any industry, not just the petroleum industry, and that's what I wanted to show you mostly with this presentation. Biomolecular engineering is not usually thought of when you think of chemical engineering, but the face of chemical engineering is starting to change. So I kind of want to leave you off with that. I feel like being an engineer, a chemical engineer, will let you basically do just about anything you want. Thank you.